Hey there, welcome to Module 13. In this module, we will cover outbound management. In this module, we will review campaigns, lists and rules, walk through contactable time sets, and call analysis. We will also learn about wrap-up code mappings and the event viewer, outbound settings and audits. If you are keeping track, this module will cover the outbound section. Outbound dialing campaigns contact a list of people according to a prescribed set of rules. Campaigns place calls based on information in a contact list. Campaigns often have a script that defines the agent experience. When a screen pop happens, the script provides the agent with information about the call, customer, and campaign based on behavior defined in the script. Agents collect or modify information to update the contact list. Outbound dialing keeps agent productivity high and idle time low. Outbound dialing administrators set up campaigns to dial phone numbers automatically. Campaigns increase agent productivity by screening out answering machines, busy signals, and non-completed calls. By setting a campaign's dialing mode, administrators can ensure that agents receive only those calls that reached a live person. The system waits 30 seconds for an answer to an outbound call before disconnecting. This action ensures that calls disconnect in a timely manner if a person does not answer. Before we can create our first campaign, we need to create a few items so that we can tie them to the campaign. Let's get started by creating a contactable time set. Click Contactable Time Sets under Outbound, then click Create New. Type a name for the contactable time set. Names can contain spaces, numbers, and special characters, but must be unique. To open a Properties page used to define when the system can contact a time zone, click Save and add time zones. Select a zone from the Time Zone filtered box. Typing all or part of a zone name narrows selections to choose from. As a convenience, your local time zone is automatically selected by default. Use a calendar to define time slots visually. Select the Calendar View tab. To create a new time slot, click an empty place in the calendar where the time slot begins. Then drag down to Extend Duration, releasing the mouse button when finished. To shorten a time slot, drag its handle upward to decrease the duration of time. To increase a time slot, drag its handle downward to increase the duration of time. To reposition a time slot, click inside its borders and drag it to a new position. Click Done. The new entry appears in the list of contactable time ranges. To designate contactable times for another time zone, click Add New Time Zone. You can also manually define time slots. Select the Detail View tab if it is not already active. Each time slot defines when calling can occur for a specific day of the week and one time range within that day. By default, the system defines time slots to dial every day of the week between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. To change start or stop times, click an hour, minute, or AM/PM indicator. To modify the value displayed, type a different value, or use up or down arrows. To add another time slot, click the plus button. This button duplicates the current entry, so that you can constrain dialing to non-contiguous time ranges within a day. An example would be dialing a time zone during business hours, but not over the lunch hour. Click Done. The new entry appears in the list of contactable time ranges. Next, let's create a contact list filter. You can apply filters to a campaign to limit the dialing to contacts that match the filter. For example, you may want the campaign to dial only those contacts within the contact list that have a specific zip code. Type a descriptive name for the filter in the contact list filter name. Names can contain spaces, numbers, and special characters, but must be unique. Select the contact list that you want to use from the contact list. The contact list selected is the only list that can be used with this filter. Under Conditions, create at least one condition group. Select a column from the column list. Select a text, numeric, or relative time operator from the operator list. Type a string, number, or date in the value field. Numeric values are limited to 65 digits and only 20 digits after a decimal point. Click the plus sign to add another condition to this condition group. Under Filter Preview, click Get Preview to view the filter that you created. Click Save. Next up, let's create an internal Do Not Contact list. There are a few ways to create one, and we will provide documentation on how to do the others. Click List Management under Outbound. Then click the Do Not Contact Lists tab. Click Create New. Type a unique name in the DNC List Name field. DNC list names can contain spaces, numbers, and special characters, but must be unique. Select a division from the division box or accept the default home division. Choose Internal from the DNC list type box. Choose Phone from the Contact Method box. Click Browse. Select a CSV file and then click Open. The page displays the first few rows of data. From the DNC List Columns section, select DNC Phone Number columns. If you have included an expiration date time column in your DNC list, select the DNC expiration column name. Click Save. Let's move on and create attempt controls. With attempt controls, you can limit the number of times a contact recorder numbers may be called. Under Outbound, click List Management, then click the Attempt Controls tab. Click Create New. Name the entry by typing in the Attempt Control name box. Decide when attempt limits should reset, either daily and never. Select Daily to limit the number of dialing attempts to thresholds set for max attempts per contact or max attempts per number. The following day, attempt counters are reset, allowing another round of dial attempts. Never indicates that you do not want attempt counters to reset once maximum attempt thresholds are reached. If you selected daily resets, you must select a time zone. The time zone determines the constraints of a day. A new day begins at midnight of that zone. Time zone is ignored if resets never occur. Click inside max attempts per contact. Type a number or use the spin control to set the maximum number of times a contact may be dialed. Click inside max attempts per number. Type a number or use the spin control to set the maximum number of times that each number in a contact record may be attempted. Click Optional Settings. The settings below Recall Controls optionally limit call attempts for individual call analysis results. You may also set the number of minutes the system waits between recall attempts. Select Answering Machine, Busy Fax, or No Answer from the Recall type box. This entry is required if you enter a value for number of recall attempts or minutes between attempts. Conversely, if you make a selection from the Recall type box, you are required to specify values for number of recall attempts and minutes between attempts. Set number of recall attempts to a value between 1 and 100. Set minutes between attempts to a number of minutes the system should wait between attempts. This value cannot be less than 5 minutes and may not exceed 480 minutes. Click Save. The next item to create before a campaign, let's create a call analysis response. Call analysis detects whether a live person or an answering machine answers a call. Tell the system what action to take for each type of call analysis result. Assign the resulting response table to a campaign. Afterward, the edge device acts on each call analysis result according to campaign settings. Click Call Analysis Responses under Outbound, then click Create New. Type a unique and descriptive name in the Call Analysis Response name box. This name can contain spaces and special characters, but must be unique. If you do not want the system to enable call analysis after the call connects, click Disable Post-Connect Call Analysis. When the call connects, the system disables all call analysis after the call connects, and also disables answering machine detection. If you do not want the system to differentiate between a live voice and an answering machine, click Disable Answering Machine Detection. When the call connects, the system transfers it without evaluating for a machine. If you selected a transfer option and want the system to delay the response until after a voicemail beep, click Enable Beep Detection. For each call analysis result, select either Hang Up to disconnect the call, Transfer to return the call to the campaign's queue, or Transfer to Outbound Flow to transfer the call to an outbound flow you select. After you assign an action to every call analysis result, click Save. Next, let's create a list. Manage Do Not Call and Contact Lists. Upload customer or prospect numbers to dial. Use automatic time zone mapping to determine compliant dialing times for contacts in a contact list. Upload numbers never to dial. Click List Management under Outbound. Click Create New. Type a unique name in the Contact List name field. Names can contain spaces, numbers, and special characters, but must be unique. Select a division from the division box or accept the default home division. In Upload Contacts from a CSV file, click Browse. Select a CSV file and click Open. A list of sample rows appears. In Contact List columns, select the appropriate columns. Contact lists can contain either or both phone numbers and email addresses. Once you set one or the other, the placeholders update and show as optional. From the Phone Number column box, select a column containing phone numbers. From the Phone Type box, select the type of number, for example home, work, or cell. If your contact list contains a column that contains the time zone of a phone number, select that column from the time zone column box. This step is a prerequisite for configuring contactable time sets. If you plan to use automatic time zone mapping, skip this step. To select another phone number column, repeat these steps. From the email address column, select a column containing email addresses. From the email type box, select the type of email address. If you want the system to determine compliant dialing times for the phone numbers in the contact list, set automatic time zone mapping to yes. If you set automatic time zone mapping to yes and your contact list has a column that contains the zip code, select zip from the zip code column box. Zip codes can be blank. For best results with automatic time zone mapping, use both phone numbers and zip codes. To expand advanced options, click the caret next to advanced. Select an entry from the attempt control list. Attempt controls restrict the number of calling attempts to a contact record or phone number on a specific day or in total. Select a column from the unique identifier column. To preview dial-specific contacts, even if the campaign is not running in preview mode, select a preview mode column and one or more corresponding values. In the example below, a contact with account number equal to 5486957 is always preview dial. If this contact list is going to be used in a campaign with dynamic queue sorting, you must specify the data type for the column to be sorted by when running your campaign. Click Save. Next, let's create some rules. A campaign can take intelligent actions based on logic and its assigned rule sets. This view manages call rule sets and digital rule sets, which are collections of call rules and digital rules. Call rule sets are evaluated before a call is placed or after it ends. Digital rule sets are evaluated before a message is sent or after it is sent. Under Outbound, click Rule Management. Click the Call Rule Sets tab. Click Create New. In the Call Rule Set Name box, type a descriptive name. Names can contain spaces, numbers, and special characters. If you intend to add only rules that evaluate the value of the telephone number, then you do not need to select a contact list. But in practice, it is common to create rules that evaluate the value of a contact list column, or that examine the type of phone number. Selecting a contact list allows the application to display column names and phone number types later, when you create rules. Afterward, your rules are compatible with any contact list that contains the same columns. Likewise, if you intend to create wrap-up rules, select a queue so that the application can display a list of wrap-up codes associated with that queue. If you do not make optional selections now, you can do so later. To save the rule set without defining rules now, click Save. Otherwise, click Save and Add Rules. The Add Call Rule page appears so that you can set the conditions and actions for a new rule. In the Call Rule field, enter a name for the call rule. Select Pre-Call or Wrap-Up from the category list. This selection configures when the system evaluates the rule. Select a condition from the type list. This condition is the item you want the rule to examine. For call analysis, it allows you to perform an action when call analysis detects a busy signal, answering machine, live person, or when no one answers the call. In Contact List column, available in Pre-Call or Wrap-Up rule conditions. Contact List column allows you to compare any column in the contact record to a fixed value. In Contact Property, compares the last time the system attempted or last queue wrap-up code result. If Data Action configures a Pre-Call or Wrap-Up rule condition to evaluate the result of a data action. If Phone Number, compares a contact phone number with a user-entered phone number. If Phone Type, compares the contact's phone number type with a specific phone number type. If System Disposition, it allows you to write rule actions for outbound campaign attempts that did not make it to an agent. If Wrap-Up Code, it compares the wrap-up code assigned after the call ended to a user-entered wrap-up code. As applicable for the type selected, choose a contact column, contact property, wrap-up code, or phone type as prompted. Configure actions for call rules and digital rules. The system executes actions before pre-call and after wrap-up for calls, and it executes actions before pre-contact and after post-contact for messages. Select an action type, and then configure the action's attributes. The following are only for pre-call. Designate caller ID sets the caller ID name and number. Do not dial skips dialing a contact. You can specify caller ID, phone number, and name as literal values, or by specifying columns from the contact list. This action has no options to configure. It prevents the call from being placed. Route call based on skills. Routes call to agent with best matching skills. This action matches the call to an agent with matching skills. To configure this action, select one or more skills from the skills list. Switch to preview. Previews dial this contact. This action preview pops this contact to the agent, irrespective of the dialing mode set for the campaign. It has no parameters. The following are only for wrap-up. Append do not call list number adds the contact's number to the first do not contact list used by the campaign. This action prevents that number from being called again. Append DNC custom entry adds the contact's custom exclusion column value to the first designated do not contact list of type internal custom used by the campaign. This action prevents contacts with this value from being called again. Schedule callback schedules a return call to the contact. The following can be for pre-call or wrap-up. This action places a return call to the contact and a configurable number of minutes in the future. Data action uses an existing custom data action configured for an integration. To set up this type of rule action, select a predefined data action, configure the input data that the action requires, and tell the rule how to evaluate the information returned by the action. Update contact column updates the value of a column in the contact record. This action updates a contact list column for the row of the current contact. Mark contact as uncallable marks all numbers for the contact as uncallable. This action marks all numbers for the contact as uncallable. It has no parameters. Mark number as uncallable marks the current contact number as uncallable. This action marks the current contact number as uncallable. It has no parameters. Click Save when finished. While we are at it, let's create a set of digital rules. Click the Digital Rule Sets tab and create New. In the Digital Rule Set Name box, type a descriptive name. Names can contain spaces, numbers, and special characters. Select a contact list. If you intend to add only rules that evaluate the value of the phone number, then you do not need to select a contact list. But in practice, it is common to create rules that evaluate the value of a contact list column, or that examine the type of phone number. Selecting a contact list allows the application to display column names and phone number types later, when you create rules. Afterward, your rules are compatible with any contact list that contains the same columns. If you do not make optional selections now, you can do so later. Save a new rule set without defining rules, click Save. Otherwise, click Save and add rules. Type a name in the Digital Rule Name box. Select pre-contact or post-contact from the category list. This selection configures when the system evaluates the rule. Select a condition from the type list. Contact address is available in pre-contact and post-contact rule conditions. Contact address allows you to compare the address in the contact record to a fixed value. Contact address type is available in pre-contact and post-contact rule conditions. Contact address type allows you to compare the type of address to a fixed value. Contact column is available in pre-contact and post-contact rule conditions. Contact column allows you to compare any column in the contact record to a fixed value. Data action configures a pre-contact rule condition to evaluate the result of a data action. To set up this type of rule condition, you select a predefined data action, configure the input data that the action requires, and tell the rule how to evaluate information returned by the action. Last attempt by column is available in pre-contact rule conditions. Last attempt by column allows you to compare, by media type, any column in the contact record to a relative time value. Last attempt overall is available in pre-contact rule conditions. Last attempt overall allows you to compare, by media type, the last time that the system attempted to send a message to a relative time value. Last result by column is available in pre-contact and post-contact rule conditions. Last result by column allows you to compare, by media type, any column in the contact record to a user-entered wrap-up code. Users can select multiple wrap-up codes. Last result overall is available in pre-contact and post-contact rule conditions. Last result overall allows you to compare by media type the last queue wrap-up code result to a user-entered wrap-up code. Users can select multiple wrap-up codes. As applicable for the type selected, complete the condition as prompted. Select an action type, and then configure the action's attributes. The following is for pre-contact only. Do not send skips sending a message to a contact. Set content template selects this action to use a content template for a contact when the rule condition is met. Set SMS phone number sets the sender SMS phone number when a rule condition is met. The following is for pre-contact only. Append to DNC list appends the contact's address or custom exclusion column value to the campaign's first designated DNC list. This action prevents a message from being sent to the contact again. The following is for pre-contact or post-contact. Mark contact address uncontactable marks the contact address for the contact as not contactable. Mark contact uncontactable marks the current contact as not contactable. Update contact column updates the value of a column in the contact record. Configure the rule action's attributes by typing or selecting values as needed. Click Save. Next, we will review wrap-up code mappings. It is important to understand the distinction between wrap-up codes and wrap-up mappings. Wrap-up codes indicate the outcome of an interaction, for example, a completed sale. An administrator defines wrap-up codes at the queue level. While performing after-call work, an agent assigns a wrap-up code to indicate the outcome of each call. Wrap-up mappings flag a single number or the entire contact as uncallable, based on the wrap-up code assigned to an interaction. Click Wrap-up Code Mappings under Outbound. Contact uncallable. All telephone numbers for a contact are uncallable. This classification persists across multiple runs of a campaign and across campaigns using the same contact list. Number uncallable. The number dialed when the wrap-up was assigned is uncallable. This classification persists across multiple runs of a campaign and across campaigns using the same contact list. Right party contact. The person who answered was the person the campaign was supposed to reach. The current campaign does not dial any other numbers for that contact. This classification does not persist across multiple runs of a campaign. If the campaign is recycled or completed, the contact can be dialed again unless the classification is selected as contact uncallable or number uncallable. For example, suppose that a preview campaign offers agents free wrap-up codes, success, failure, and bad number. In outbound dialing, under wrap-up code mappings, the mappings would be as shown. When an agent accomplishes the campaign goal, he assigns success during after-call work. Success is mapped to contact uncallable to prevent the contact from being dialed again. If the agent cannot accomplish the campaign goal, the agent assigns the failure wrap-up. Since it is mapped to contact uncallable and right party contact, no phone numbers for that contact are dialed again. If a dialed number is invalid, the agent assigns the bad number wrap-up. In this case, the wrap-up mapping prevents that number from being dialed again. If the contact record contains extra contact columns, the additional contacts are dialed. As you can see, wrap-up codes and wrap-up mappings work together to exclude from dialing contacts or numbers that a campaign has processed. Now that we have set up all the items needed to create a campaign, let's create one. The campaign editor helps you configure outbound campaigns. The first step is to select a dialing mode. The default mode is preview, but your new campaign can use a different mode. Decide which mode to use. To get started, click on Campaign Management under Outbound, then click Create New on the Voice Campaigns tab. Type a name in the campaign name box. The name of a campaign can contain spaces and special characters, but it must be unique. Select a division or accept the default home division. Select Preview Dialing from the Dialing Mode list. Select a queue of agents you want to participate in this campaign. To filter the list, type all or part of a name in the queue filtered box. If you do not type filter text, the queue box lists all queues. Select a script from the agent script list. To see case-sensitive matching selections, type all or part of the script name. To accept a matched item, select it from the list. To allow the agent to bypass a preview contact, enable allow skipping of preview calls. When disabled, a preview telephone number cannot be skipped by the agent. To permit each agent a fixed amount of time to preview the record before the contact is automatically dialed, turn on Enable Preview Timer. Then, set an amount of time to wait in minutes and seconds. The default is 1 minute. Use the Contact List box to select a list of contacts for this campaign to dial. To filter the list, type all or part of a name. If you select an unassignable list, an error message indicates why. Columns in the contact list that contain telephone numbers appear below the contact list numbers heading. To exclude a phone number column from dialing, click X next to a phone number type. If you remove a contact column and want to add it back, click outside the boxes. Then type all or part of the phone number type name. For example, type C to display SUB. To accept a matched item, select it from the list. From the contact list filter box, optionally select the contact list filter that this campaign should use to limit the dialing to contacts that match the filter. Optionally, for preview campaigns with agent-owned records, select the contact list column from the agent-owned column list that specifies the email addresses or user ID of the agents. Caller ID entries allow you to set the name and phone number shown to contacts as caller ID information. Telemarketing and regulatory compliance often requires the ability to send caller ID information. Type in the caller ID phone number box. Type a calling party name in the caller ID name box. From the DNC list box, optionally select a table of phone numbers that this campaign should never dial. To filter the list, type all or part of a name. When this campaign selects records to dial from its contact list, it excludes numbers that match entries in this DNC list. If you select an unassignable list, an error message appears. Optionally select sets of rules from the Call Rule Sets filtered box. Rule sets apply automation to campaign records processing. To filter rule set choices, type all or part of a rule set name and view case-sensitive matched selections. Select a callable time file containing time zone names and when calling can occur for each. Prioritize this campaign. Under Advanced, use the priority setting to assign an integer between 1 and 5 inclusive. Priority indicates the importance of this campaign relative to any others. This setting helps outbound dialing determine how many calls to place for each campaign for each agent. Enable always running if you want the campaign to continue running even if there are currently no contacts in the contact list. The campaign does not complete when it runs out of records, and instead sits idle waiting for more records to be added. This option is useful if the contact list is dynamically updated from another source. Sort the contact list by column before dialing begins. For example, if your contact list has an amount owed column, you could sort the list to call people who owe the highest amount first. If you want to be able to add a new contact to a running campaign and resort the contact list while the campaign is running, turn on dynamic queuing sorting. Be sure to select a sort by column that will be used to resort the contact list when the new contact is added to the running campaign. Click Save. The new campaign is available on the campaign management page. After that, create another campaign so that you have 2 campaigns in the dashboard. This will help in a hands-on. Genesys Cloud creates mass email campaigns that help you engage with your customers. Provision the Outbound email campaign domains and configure Outbound email campaigns. To get started, click Campaign Management under Outbound. Click Create New in the Digital Campaigns tab. Type a name in the campaign name box. The name of a campaign can contain spaces and special characters, but must be unique. Select a division or accept the default home division. Use the contact list box to select a list of contacts to message for this campaign. To filter the list, type all or part of a name. If you select an unassignable list, a message indicates why. From the contact list filter box, select the contact list filter that this campaign uses to limit the messages to matching contacts. From the Messages per Minute box, enter the number of messages to be sent each minute during the campaign. The system-imposed limit for organizations is 1,200 outbound email messages per minute. If you set the value to anything greater, an error occurs. You can adjust the messages per minute value while the campaign is running. From the DNC list box, select a table of email addresses that this campaign will never message. To filter the list, type all or part of a name. When this campaign selects records to message from its contact list, it excludes addresses that match entries in this Do Not Contact list. If you select an unassignable list, a message appears. Optionally select sets of rules from the Digital Rule Sets filtered box. Rule sets apply automation to campaign records processing. To filter rule set choices, type all or part of a rule set name and view case-sensitive matched selections. Select a contactable time set containing time zone names and when email can be sent for each time zone. From the Type box, select Email. From the Email column box, select the contact list column that contains the email address of the customer. From the Email Campaign Template box, select an email campaign template. In the From Address section, in the Address box, type the local part of the sender email address you provisioned for this campaign. From the Domain box, select the Outbound domain part of the sender email address. In the Friendly Name box, type the name by which you want the sender identified. In the Reply to Address section, first select the inbound domain where the reply to email address is provisioned. And then from the Address box, select the address to which you want replies to this email campaign directed. Enable Always Running if you want the campaign to continue running even if there are currently no contacts in the contact list. The campaign does not complete when it runs out of records, and instead sits idle waiting for more records. This option is useful if another source dynamically updates the contact list. Sort the contact list by column before messaging begins. For example, if your contact list has an amount owed column, you could sort the list to message people who owe the highest amount first. If you want to be able to add a new contact to a running campaign and resort the contact list while the campaign is running, turn on dynamic queuing sorting. Be sure to select a sort by column that will be used to resort the contact list when the new contact is added to the running campaign. When you complete your email campaign configuration, click Save. The new campaign is available on the Campaign Management page. Next, let's review the different settings and view you can use to resolve issues and make sure the campaigns are running healthy. The Event Viewer allows you to check for and troubleshoot errors that have occurred with one or more of your running campaigns. When an error occurs in a running campaign, an event is generated and assigned a category and level. The Event Viewer lists the time, level, and category for each event and provides details to help you troubleshoot the issue. To view error conditions with your running campaigns, click Event Viewer under Outbound. A warning is an event that highlights a configuration issue that you may want to investigate. An error is an event that is a configuration error that requires correction. An info is an event that highlights configuration information that you may find useful or relevant. The view allows you to sort by level or category. The events in the Event Viewer will expire after 30 days. Next, let's take a look at the Outbound settings. Outbound settings allows you to configure outbound campaign call settings, including automatic time zone mapping settings that apply to all campaigns in your organization. In the Outbound settings section of the page, you can configure the following call settings. Max calls per agent limits the maximum number of outbound campaign calls that the system can place for an agent at a time. Type of value equal to or less than the maximum of 15. Max line utilization changes the percentage of maximum number of outbound lines that the system can use. For example, to leave 40% of the lines available for inbound calls and use 60% for outbound campaign calls, set the value to 60. This setting applies only to campaigns that specify edge groups or sites. It does not apply to preview campaigns. For campaigns, the system assumes that each edge can handle a maximum of 300 lines. Example: a customer has 2 edges assigned for a campaign, and each edge has 300 lines. If max line utilization is set at 75%, only 450 lines will be used out of 600 total. The compliance abandon threshold changes the allowable amount of time for an agent to answer a call transferred to a queue before the system considers the call a compliance abandon. Type of value in seconds. The default is 2 seconds. The calls subject to compliance abandon rate change the group of calls subject to the compliance abandon rate calculation. Select all calls or calls that reach the queue. For all calls, the calculation is abandoned calls, all calls, including, for example, busy and no answer. For calls that reach the queue, the calculation is abandoned calls, only the calls transferred to the queue, usually live voice calls. Reschedule time zone skip contacts allows Genesys Cloud to skip records that cannot be contacted due to the time zone identified for the contact or phone number. Reschedule time zone skip contacts automatically reschedules the record or phone number to the next appropriate time the system can attempt to dial the contact. In support countries, select the countries for the contacts used in your outbound call campaign. For the callable window for mapped contacts, when the system successfully maps a time zone to a record, the default dialing window is set to 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. local time. To override this calling window, define the earliest callable time and the latest callable time. For the callable window for unmapped contacts, when the system cannot successfully map a time zone to a record, the calling window defaults to a compliant dialing window of 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. EST. To override this dialing window, define the earliest callable time, the latest callable time, and the corresponding time zone. To wrap up the Outbound module, let's take a look at the Search Audit section. In the Search Audit section, you can track changes and who made them, as well as quickly filter audit logs using faceted search. Interrogate records about changes made. Find out who added, modified, or deleted an Outbound configuration or data file, and when those changes occurred. By default, the system retrieves all audit records for the past 30 days. To locate a subset of records, specify search criteria. You can use full-text search with faceted search to quickly narrow search results. In the search box, type all or part of a string. For example, to locate records that contain the word example type. After clicking the magnifying glass, the results will display. Faceted search narrows search results based on criteria you select by checking items in the list on the left side. For the Actions field, it searches for an operation performed, such as creating, updating, appending, exporting, or deleting entities. Entity type narrows the search to what changed. This list allows you to select specific configuration objects, such as campaigns, schedules, call analysis responses, and lists. The Date field specifies when someone made an update. Options include this month, this week, today, or yesterday. The User field specifies who made an update. Click the links for the criteria you want to apply to your search results. The numbers indicate the number of matching records. To recap, this module is designed to provide you with knowledge setting up and configuring campaigns, as well as the lists and rules that tie to those campaigns. Contactable time sets help the campaigns only dial during the time setup. Call analysis sets the campaign settings on what to do when an answering machine or live voice is detected. Wrap-up code mappings allow you to automatically set what wrap-up code should be used depending on the contact. Also, Event Viewer will assist in finding errors or warnings with the campaigns. We also reviewed Outbound settings and search audits and how they are used in setting global settings and showing us an audit trail of everything done with Outbound. Thank you for completing Module 13. In Module 14, we will discuss Architect and Troubleshooting. See you there.